Okay, so today we're going to be looking about the quadratic formula. So we've learned a few different ways that we can find the roots or intercepts or zeros, right? We've learned about decomposition and inspection, which is just like type 1 factoring and type 2 factoring. We've learned about graphing, which is really good because it's fast and easy, but it's not very good because we can't get it in exact values most of the time. So the next way we're going to learn is the quadratic formula. And so if you skip 2 pages forward, all the way to page 335, this is the quadratic formula right here. And so this is awesome because all you have to do is put these coefficients in, so A, B, and C. Like all the B's go there, all the A's go there, and the C goes there. And this will give you your x-intercepts and your zeros. So this is a nice little trick. The reason we wait until the very end to teach it to you is because, for one, all this tells you is your x-intercepts, whereas using it other ways, you can find out things like stretches and reflections and a lot more information. This will only tell you your x-intercepts. Also, factoring and completing the square involves a lot of thinking, right? And it's a lot more important that you know how to think and you know that process than that you know how to put things into your calculator. Okay? And so, because we never want you to ever forget this from now on, we have a movie to show you about it. So, you know, maybe we'll watch them every day for the rest of the year since there's so many. It is a movie and a song. Yeah, if you want to get it going.
Saw a man on the street with a parabola in his hand. He said, "Sir, please help me. I don't understand, and I've been having trouble. This problem's all my fears." So I took out my notebook and I wiped away his tears with the quadratic formula. Quadratic formula. Quadratic formula. The quadratic formula. And it's negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a over 2a over 2a. Although I couldn't factor it, I attacked the equation fast. Did I plug in the coefficients? Yep, you bet your ass me if I could explain it. This problem's down the drain. That's exactly when he stuck a knife into my brain. I exclaimed, "Why did you do this? Do you even care? Didn't I just help you? Didn't I complete your square?" No, actually, I used the quadratic formula. Quadratic formula. Quadratic formula. Quadratic formula. And it's negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a over 2a over 2a. Now my life is over, seeing all that I can see. Quadratics, cubics, quintics, quartics got the best of me. But as I lay here dying, a strange peace and over me, knowing that upon my tombstone carved for all the world to see will be the quadratic formula, quadratic formula, quadratic formula, quadratic formula. And it's negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a, over 2a, over 2a. One more time. Quadratic formula, quadratic formula. Let's bring it way down. Quadratic formula, quadratic formula, and it's negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over 2a, over 2a, over 2a, over 2a.
So now, for the rest of your life, you will never, ever forget the quadratic formula. So, let's do some examples. So, one of the nice things about the quadratic formula is now we can find the zeros of any quadratic equation. For the factoring and the graphing, really the only ones we showed you were like the easy ones, the ones that always end up with something like a fraction or a whole number. But now you'll have ones that end with radicals and stuff like that. So you can literally factor any quadratic equation now. So what I do is I like to do, if the x doesn't have any coefficient like that, I'll just put a 1 in front of it. And then you can go a, b, c on top like that. And you can actually draw little circles around it. And make sure if there's a negative sign to include that in your circle. So we'll get a is equal to 1, b is equal to 2, and c is equal to negative 1. Okay. And then we can write out our quadratic formula, which is negative b plus or minus b squared minus 4ac square root over what? 2a. You'll never forget that. Okay? So then all we have to do is substitute those coefficients into our quadratic formula. So we'll go x is equal to minus we'll get to that. Okay. 2 squared minus 4 Okay, so then we're going to simplify it a little bit. So we'll go, okay, x squared is equal to negative 2 plus or minus. And then can someone put up their hand and tell me what belongs underneath that radical sign? Take a seat, Josh. And then... Yeah, Kelsey? Yeah, 8. Because we'll get 4 plus 4, right? And then underneath it, we'll get 2. And so because you've already done the radicals unit, you know that this can be simplified, right? So we'll go negative 2 plus or minus. What can the square root of 8 be simplified to? Someone with a hand up. Kelsey? Yeah, so we want 2 root 2 because we want to keep it in exact values, right, Andrew? And so when you look at it now, you should say, oh, Wait a second, this can even be reduced. Look here, we have a -2, and a 2, and a 2. So you can reduce it. It's 2, right? So yeah, -1 plus or minus square root of 2. Oh. Okay, so we'll go just like that, right? And then in the end, that will give us x is equal to -1 plus or minus the square root of 2. Because if I ask for it in exact values, we've got to have that in it, right? So this is why this is so handy, because now you can solve it in exact values. Yes, Kelsey? Yeah. You want it in simplest. Okay? So, like was asked before, what about this plus or minus? So what this means is that we have two different solutions. So we have x is equal to -1 plus the square root of 2, and x is equal to -2 minus the square root of 2. Okay? Yes, Daniel? Yeah, I would want it in 2. Because you might get one where you can simplify it farther after you add or subtract it. Okay? So, like everything in this unit, yeah, Michaela? Because in our quadratic formula, it starts out as -b. That's a good question, though. Okay, so focus. So, like everything else in this unit, we can check our answers using our calculator. So in y1, we can go x squared plus 2x minus 1. And I'm going to do y2 is equal to 0. So x squared plus 2x minus 1. And then we'll graph it like this. Because we're checking our answers. So this is handy to know how to do. Okay? So it is so catchy. And I've listened to it twice today and I'm not singing it right now. So I'm sure you can handle it. Okay? So you can find the intercept and you go, oh, it's 0.414. So I'm going to show you a trick, okay? If you go to second quit and you hit X, that will give you what we found our intercept to be. And then you can go, okay, so it's not, but you can go, okay, so -1 minus square root of 2. And then -1 plus square root of 2. So we say, oh, look, it matches. So we know that that is one of our x-intercepts. Okay, so second trace. Okay, and then intercept. Okay, and so let's do this curve that's on the left. Okay, so enter 3 times. Enter, enter, enter. So we get -2.41. So the second quit. So, or second mode. Okay, then you hit X and hit enter. It's right next to alpha, yes. And then you can be like, oh, okay, so it's -2.41. Okay, and then you can find that they're the same. Okay, so that's a way that we can check our work. So, okay, so you got it. Because we have two different x-intercepts, Josh. We have x minus. You got it. Okay, so let's move on to example 2. For example 2b. Okay, so we're going to start it off the same way. So that means we have to wait for everyone to be quiet. Okay, so we'll go A, B, and C. And so we go, okay, our A is 4, our B is negative 12, and our C is 3. So it's really important that you always include that negative. And then we get to put it all into that beautiful friend of ours, the quadratic formula. Then it would become negative 1, right? So if you look at the first example, Andrew, it was just x squared and we put a 1 in front of it. You can change that to a negative 1 if it's negative x squared. Oh, a negative 4x squared like this? Then it would become, A would be negative 4. You always carry that negative in with your coefficient. Yep. This one? Yeah, so it's our, yeah. So our B is negative 12, so our negative B is negative 12, right? You always substitute in brackets, and that way we won't make that mistake. Okay, so like someone said, when we have a negative 12, it becomes positive 12, plus or minus what belongs under that square root sign. Okay, someone with their hand up. Yes, Sam? Which is? Okay, but we need to know what goes under the square root in the next step. So, Teresa? What was it? Okay, so everything under the square root sign, we want to solve everything under there first, all together. So we get like 4 plus 240, no, plus minus 48 is equal to 8. So Teresa, you're just like 2 steps ahead of us right now. Okay. So then we get the square root of 96 over 8. And Teresa, how can 96 be simplified? Exactly. So we can pull out 16, which gives us 4 in front. And we get 4 root 6. And so this time, for our simplification, like last time we had, if you look, all 2's to a negative 2. This time we have 12, 4, and 8. So what can we divide it all by? So we can divide everything by 4. So we'll go 3 plus or minus 1, the square root of 6. We're just showing like every step. Great. Okay, and then we get that our answers are x is equal to 3 plus the square root of 6 over 2 and x is equal to 3 minus the square root of 6 all over 2. So, which is why it's a good thing we have the quadratic formula, because if you got this as a decimal number, you'd never be able to be like, oh, that's 6 plus the square root of 6 over 2, obviously. You'd be like, Rain Man. Okay? Okay, so for C, to use the quadratic formula, we have to make sure that everything equals 0, just like this, right? So the first thing we're going to do is distribute that 3 across. Okay. And then we get to minus 12x minus 15 from both sides. Okay. So all I did was subtract this from both sides so that we can make it equal to 0. Okay. So then from here we can go, okay, A, B, C. And we'll go, okay, so A is equal to 4, B is equal to negative 12, and C is equal to negative 15. And then we get to put it right back in that quadratic formula. So just remember to always substitute in brackets. That way we won't forget any negative signs. Okay, Josh, we've all heard the song. We don't need you to sing it to us again. Maybe tomorrow at lunch, we'll sing it to you again. Okay? So we get negative 12 is positive 12. Plus or minus, what goes underneath that square root sign? At 144 plus what? Okay, so I need someone with their hand up to let me know what negative 4 multiplied by 4 multiplied by negative 15 is. Justin. Plus 240. All over 8. Okay, so we get 12 plus or minus 384 all over 8. There definitely is. But the first thing we have to do is we want to simplify that radical, right? So everyone should be quietly working on their own calculators, trying to figure out what the square root of 384 can simplify to. Okay. And if you have an answer, you can put up your hand. Awesome. So what did we pull out of there? Perfect. So 64 can be taken out of 384, and we get 8 root 6. Okay. And so we have that common factor that we can divide out. So Sam, would you like to, I know you're bursting. You got it. So we can divide each of these by 4. So we get x is equal to 3 plus or minus 2 square root of 6 all over 2. All over 2. Okay? And so our two answers are 3 plus 2 square root of 6 over 2. And x is equal to 3 minus 2 square root of 6 over 2. Okay? And so just always remember that when you're giving us an answer, you write it as the two different x's. We prefer that over something like this. Okay? So for example 3, they ask us to find the zeros of the quadratic function and give the answers as exact values and to the nearest hundredth. So in both decimal and exact value. So we can go, okay, 0 is equal to negative 3 x squared plus 4x plus 1. So can someone put up their hand and tell me what a, b, and c are equal to? Josh? You got it. What's b? Said a, b, and c. You got it. Okay, so we get okay. I need everyone to be focused and quiet. I'm glad you have some self-awareness. Okay? So we substitute because we're solving the x-intercepts, right? So yeah, finding the zeros, the x-intercept, or the roots are all the same thing. Okay? So we get 4 plus or minus 4 squared minus 4 negative 3 1. Okay, so we'll get x is equal to negative 4 plus or minus what goes under that square root sign. Someone with a hand. Yes, Justin? You got it. So 28 all over negative 6. Okay, and can our 28 be simplified? Okay, so I need someone with a hand up to tell me what can be taken out of our 28. So we take 4 out, so we get 2 root 7 over negative 6. And Sam, what do we always look for next? Okay, so Sam, what do we always look for next? Yes? You got it. We're looking for that common factor. So can someone tell me what it is? Is it 2? Exactly. So when you see negative signs, you want to take the negative out. Because if you take a negative 2 out, this becomes 2, this becomes 3, and this stays plus or minus 1. Okay, so you just have to deal with less negative signs then, because this will stay plus or minus, whereas everything else will become positive. Because it's already plus or minus. Then the plus 1 will become a minus, and the minus 1 will become a positive. and it's still plus or minus. Okay? So our two answers, 2 plus the square root of 7 over 3, and x is equal to 2 minus the square root of 7 over 3. So this is our answer in exact values. And then they also ask for the nearest hundredth. So the two ways you can do this is you can just go, okay, 2 plus square root of 7 divided by 3, 1.55. So, and if you're doing this, make sure that you put what's on top in brackets, or else you're going to get 2 plus the square root of 7 divided by 3, and it'll only divide the square root of 7 divided by 3, not the 2. And you get 2 minus square root of 7 divided by 3. Okay? So because they ask for you to also say it in the nearest hundredth, that means they also want it in decimal. Okay? So, can someone tell me how else would I find out what it could be in decimal form? Exactly. Okay? So then you can also do the same thing and test it in a graphing calculator. Plus 4x plus 1. Beautiful. And then second trace intercept. Enter, enter, enter. Yeah. Then you find, oh, look, it's the same. Okay? Okay? So, there's no reason for you guys to be talking right now. Okay? So, second trace intercept. And you find the other one. And you go, oh, perfect. 1.54, 8, 1.55. They're the same, so all is good in the hood. Couldn't help myself. Okay, so for homework today. No. Okay, so it's going to be 1 to 6. Yeah. Okay, and what I'd like you to do is, okay, I need guys listening because I don't want to have to say this 4 more times. Okay? Inspection and decomposition are just the 2 types of factoring. So you can cross this out and write factor. Okay? So inspection is like type 1, and decomposition is like type 2. Okay? So they're asking you to both factor it and give us the x's, and then use the quadratic equation to find the same thing. Okay? So everyone should be able to work quietly and individually. And it's on YouTube. Yeah, you can find it. Search quadratic formula song.